Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. This is going to be Rabbits Season 2, Episode 3, Part 2, Path Cards. The story is moving on rather well. I need to say up front that I have to apologize for the irregular posting of videos in general over the last couple of weeks, simply because in the last 14 days of May 2024, where I'm at in Texas, we have received a little over 30 inches of rain. To put that in perspective, our annual total rainfall averages between 38 and 42 inches. So we've gotten a lot of rain in a really short period, and basically I'm trying to keep from getting flooded out or mudded in, or tree branches falling through cars, trucks, houses, what have you. So until things straighten out, it's going to probably be irregular because most of my time is going toward this recovery from all this rain. And on a side note, when we get springs like this, where we get this much rain, usually means the Texas Gulf Coast is going to get slammed by hurricanes. So we're also prepping for hurricane season, which is like right around the corner next month, and runs to November. So I'm just letting you know now that there's going to be some real irregularities in me posting videos, simply because I have more mundane things that take precedence right now. So that's that. And like I said, I apologize. I deeply am sorry for this, but Mother Nature's doing her thing, and I just have to deal. So, without further ado, let's get into this thing.
Hearing from the magician made me go back to Season 1 of the Rabbits Podcast. I went through everything, looking for some kind of clue, something that might help me figure out exactly what had happened to Jenny Slater and why. But there was nothing. There is one point during Season 1 when Carly Parker very briefly discusses the Meacham radiance. Barely a mention, really. But I figured that was as good a place to dig in as any. So, once again, I went back to the drawing board.
Yeah, that's actually a really good logic. In her part, you start with the improbable and work your way to the probable. And sometimes you find when you start with the little things, you find things that connect into the larger picture. It's just one of those things that happens. So yeah, that's the way I do things. When I have a problem, I find the smallest part of the problem and work my way into it, because it's like a learning curve that way.
The Meacham Radiance drawing board. It took me an afternoon of searching, but I finally found something new. Someone, actually. Sally Corning, a high school teacher working in nearby Everett.
As my wife is a teacher, I like it when, they bring teachers and stuff in. I mean, mind you, my wife teaches a high school Spanish class in junior high for early high school credit, which is kind of a cool thing.
Sally Corning was interesting. She had 2 PhDs, one in philosophy and one in physics. She was actually only teaching.
Now, see, a PhD in philosophy and a PhD in physics, that's kind of cool, because on the surface, the two seem incompatible. One's science-based and one is speculation. And however, we will find out.
High school science part-time, 2 afternoons a week. Oh, and Sally Corning is interesting for another reason. Sally Corning's maiden name is Meacham. She's the daughter of Martin Meacham, son of Kellen.
I hope you like beer that tastes like grapefruit.
Who doesn't?
Right? It's amazing.
Cheers.
So, what would you like to know?
I'm surprised.
Surprised? How do you mean?
Well, everybody I've spoken to in connection with the game with rabbits has warned me away or been extremely shady or cryptic or all three. You seem...
See, me, I understand that, because there are certain things that I've do that when people ask me about it, I strongly discourage them from doing it, simply on the grounds because something works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you or be healthy for you to do. So, I understand that if you have a passion, an all-consuming passion, to be real enough with yourself to not encourage other people to come down that rabbit hole with you, pun intended.
Normal.
Thanks.
It's a compliment.
The lack of people willing to talk about that game isn't really surprising. It's a hell of a touchy subject.
Why do you think that is?
All of the death surrounding it, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess that would do it.
You used the name, Rabbits. That's interesting.
You don't?
It doesn't matter, because it's not real. At least, not in any conspiracy nut, talk about it and you die kind of way.
And I love the way that this teacher character is putting it, that, basically framing the rabbits people as tinfoil hats. I kind of like that, but if you've been going through the series, and I hope you are, and actually going and listening to these without my interruptions, links to all the rabbits and public radio and Minnow Beats Wheel things in the description below. We know that our rabbits players aren't really tinfoil hats, but somebody on the outside looking in type thing. It's kind of interesting.
I mean, doesn't that sound a little extreme?
You don't believe rabbits is real?
Oh no, it's real. It's just not what people are saying it is.
What is it? Sally?
It's hard to say with any certainty what the game represents culturally. I mean, why it exists. But it's definitely not anything magical.
And that is the philosophy mixed with the science.
Your grandfather's name has popped up a couple of times in connection with the game.
Even though it's not all that common, I still don't like the idea that rabbits has become synonymous with my grandfather's work.
Why is that?
Rabbits is a game. Somebody made it up, just like Shakespeare or the Bible. That's it.
And I like the phrasing there. And yes, I know that a lot of people in America and a lot of people around the world practice one of the three Abrahamic religions, but at the same time, in the context of this podcast, it makes sense with all the other supernatural stuff floating around that it's characterized. She characterizes the Bible in there with, made up things, Shakespeare and what have you.
It's not real. My grandfather's work is important. He was looking into something very real and very outside the norm.
And you really don't believe they're connected? Your grandfather's work and rabbits?
No way.
So can you talk to me about that? About the game and about why you believe it isn't connected to your grandfather or his Meacham radiance?
Well, for one thing, my grandfather started talking about those things he called radiance well before the game started in 1959.
Or, for those that have partaken of Season 1, the game has always been around, and the modern version of the game didn't kick off until the late 1950s. So, it's you've got to kind of balance all that.
Well, there are people who believe the game existed before 1959.
There are people who believe dinosaurs never existed, and that a trickster god planted their bones underground to test our faith.
Fair point.
And I like that because in the community I live in, mundanely, IRL, I have met people my age and older usually that don't believe dinosaurs existed and don't believe we landed on the moon. So, it's don't believe that there's a space program, that everything like the International Space Station, all that is all Hollywood. So yeah, that's one of those things. It's just one of those things when you listen to it, you can go, oh, okay.
It started in 1959. Rabbits.
Okay, if that's true, who started it?
That I can't tell you. It's not my area of interest, I'm afraid.
What is your area of interest?
The philosophy of quantum computers.
Now, that gets kind of weird real fast because quantum theory, even the Reader's Digest version of quantum theory is insane and complex. Then you apply computers to it and internet and logic and artificial intelligence, and it gets really weird really fast.
That sounds intense.
Oh, definitely.
Any connection to your grandfather's radiance? Sally?
And now we go into the second intro, or kind of a commercial, I guess you would call it.
Okay, well, for one thing, the Meacham radiance were just a small facet of my grandfather's work and research. The fact that radiant lunacy is what he's remembered for, if he's remembered at all, is frustrating.
So, no, then.
I mean, there are some quantum entanglement questions and fringy game theory elements we share, but I'm not interested in tracing non-existent magical pathways beneath the world. That didn't end well for my grandfather.
And I'm kind of with the teacher here, to be honest with you.
Was your grandfather, was he...
Insane?
That's not what I mean. I'm
Yes, that's what you meant.
asking if perhaps he was speaking metaphorically about some of his more out there theories, maybe.
Oh no, he was 100% into it, but he did believe it was all science. He wasn't losing it. I mean, at least not at first. His work in quantum entanglement, as it pertains to advanced game theory, was on point.
And, I can kind of relate to that because I've gone down rabbit holes and be just off doing something and going down, down, down. And it's taken my wife to pull me aside and go, look, you need to step back and actually look at what you're doing objectively because it's crazy. And I understand where this teacher character is going. But at the same time, sometimes being a little bit crazy helps figure things out.
But when he started applying his research to those things he called radiance, he quickly went downhill. Then he discovered that game and...
Rabbits?
Sometimes he'd use that name, but to him it was almost always just that game.
I like that game. I like that. I like the way she's describing just the context of it, the undertone meaning.
So you're saying that your grandfather was definitely aware of it, of the game?
Near the end of his life, he'd veered away from science and into that fringe stuff.
Fringe stuff like...
Which is an interesting because there's a parallel you can say between some of the early experimentation with lysergic acid diethamide, or LSD-25, in which some of the early people, Dr. Hoffman himself, Huxley, who wrote Brave New World and stuff, were using and trying to figure out the secrets of LSD, and at different points went from scientific, quantifiable, codified stuff into the realm of the fantastic, but managed to pull themselves back to the scientific, and there's that just interesting parallel.
Rabbits?
Exactly like that, yes. Rabbits and path cards. He was into all kinds of weird stuff near the end. That's how he came up with that radiant bullshit.
Path cards?
Tabula, or path cards, have been around for a long time, although they came into fashion briefly in the 70s.
And I have to admit, from the merch store on the Rabbits homepage, I did buy a set of the path cards just simply because they're cool. The art on them is just fantastic. I know in a video I tried, an earlier video, tried to share some of the art and stuff, but because of camera angles and me not paying attention, so I may do that when I do the next part for this. Do in the intro, do the path cards. I don't know yet. Depends what goes on in the real world. But the art on them is just awesome.
They're quite ancient.
What are they?
They're really kind of cool, actually, as long as you're not gullible enough to use them to map out your destiny.
Right.
There are 12 cards. Each card is kind of tied to the zodiac and the tarot, or similar. I believe they're called houses of explorations in Path. Or way stations, maybe? Depending on the cards.
And how are these path cards connected to your grandfather's radiance?
How much do you know about my grandfather's work?
And that right there is the important question. How much do you know of the work in question? In this case, the Meacham Radiance. Now, getting back to the path cards for a bit, like I said, they are pretty cool. And I think that the as a party game, as something just to goof off, goof around, and I've done it several times out hiking. I may do just a video doing path cards. That could be fun. I might do it at the conclusion of season 2, before we get into the books. Just do a video of playing the path card game. Read the rules, go out, do the things and the stuff. So yeah, like I said, it's a great party game. I wouldn't go too serious about it.
Only that he claimed to have discovered that ley lines were real, or something similar?
Right. So, the basic tenets of the Meacham Radiance, there exist lines of energy that, when manipulated, can result in affecting change in the world around us. Put another way, if you follow certain pathways, you're able to open certain doors.
Doors?
That's right.
Doors to where? Other dimensions?
None of this is real, you understand.
Now, this is where a good interviewer would follow up with the question, hypothetically, blah, blah, blah.
Can I get you another beer?
Sounds good. I sat with Sally Meacham for another hour or so. We talked about a lot of things, but nothing that shed light on anything connected to this podcast. As soon as I got home, however, I dug into what Sally Meacham had referred to as path cards. The very first article I found was interesting.
And this is, I place the same amount of weight on tarot cards, path cards, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering cards. They're great games, they're fun, but that's about it. That's my personal view. So,
Path cards, or tabula cards, were manufactured by a company called South Elk, or the South Elk Trading Company. I'm not going to get into all the details of the card's creation, except to say that there were a lot of specifications. The cards had to be manufactured very close to one particular area in the Pacific Northwest, on a specific date, and specific materials treated a very specific way needed to be used.
So, I doubt the ones that I bought from the merch store follow this very specific thing that she's talking about.
South Elk was, allegedly, the only company that understood the complex nature of the rules, so they were the only company that made the official cards, the only cards that allegedly worked. If you wanted your cards to be effective, you had to buy them from South Elk. It was genius marketing, actually.
And you gotta give it to the PR department or the advertising department on that one. That's just a great way to do it. Here we go. I believe this is the Path Cards commercial now. I was in error earlier in the video.
Hello there. Do you sometimes find yourself stuck? Do you feel like you are occasionally just spinning your wheels? Would you like to find the answer to a difficult question? Or are you simply just looking to find your true path, improve your life, and maybe enter a universe of unending adventure? If so, Path Cards might be for you.
And like I said, it's kind of interesting. I believe they come into play in later episodes. The reason why I phrase it that way is it's been a while since I've done season 2, and I don't want to spoil anything.
Visit us now at southelk.com for more information. South Elk, find your path. Path cards are connected to a deep and ancient power source. And if you use path cards, you understand that you are doing so entirely at your own risk. South Elk will not be liable for any damages arising from the use of path cards. Good luck.
Is it me, or does that commercial just have that late 1950s, early 1960s drive-in movie theater snack bar commercial vibe to it, the happy music, and it's just kind of interesting. That's what it the feeling I get from it. I'd be interested in, what you think of the commercial. Just leave a comment, throw something down there, and have fun.
So, how is one supposed to use path cards? Well, they're not completely unlike tarot cards, in that the cards are shuffled before use, and each card chosen is supposed to hold a significance to the participant as they move along their path. But unlike the tarot, path cards are designed to be used one at a time, with each card representing a waypoint or station the person using the cards uses as a guide.
And it's interesting, like I said earlier, as a party game, just the rules. Like I said, this section really makes me want to do a video on me doing the path card thing. I may have to dig out my headset and stuff for my GoPro and go out to one of my hiking areas and do it. Just because I think it'd be interesting. It's just interesting, read the rules, go out, do the things, and do it. There's just something about this bit in this episode that makes me want to go do that.
A point they're meant to visit. Now, that point could be a place, a person, a thing, anything at all. It was very New Agey. Path cards, however, unlike tarot cards and most other forms of divination, are designed to be used solo. I had a bit of a hard time finding a deck of path cards, but I was eventually able to track one down on Etsy, of all places. I bought them from a woman named Melody.
She should have just went to the Rabbits merch store and got it. But I guess in her within the Rabbits universe of the podcast, that there is no Rabbits merch store.
Part of the deal I made when I purchased the cards on Etsy was that Melody would teach me how to use them.
I think it's more fun to learn something like that on the fly.
Hello?
Hi, Melody?
It's me.
That's Melody. She's a self-described practitioner of soul magic and refers to herself as a spiritual healer.
And for me, that just throws up like tons and tons of red flags.
How are you liking your path cards so far?
To be honest, I haven't had time to check them out.
Well, that's okay. We can go through it all together.
Oh, great.
So, first, are you familiar with tarot and or the houses of the zodiac?
Kind of. My girlfriends and I played with tarot cards in university, and I'd say I'm as familiar with astrology as the next person.
I like her use of me and my friends at university. That is a very English phrasing, where and normally in America you go to a college within a university. It's like my wife graduated from the college for teaching, I forgot what it's called, at Sam Houston State University. Whereas she just refers to the university as a whole, not going into any details what she studied. Or I love when the English just simply refer to it as going to uni, which is kind of interesting.
I suppose.
You don't play with tarot cards.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult.
It's fine. A lot of people don't understand the power they're dealing with. In the spirit of honoring that, I'd like you to do something for me before we start.
Oh, okay.
I need you to promise me you'll only use these cards for good, and you'll endeavor to pass on that message to your audience.
Sure.
I like that hesitant, sure. I love that.
Okay.
Great. Do you have the cards in front of you?
I do. Yeah. Melody went on to brief me on each card. Unlike the major arcana, which features 21 or 22 cards, Path is similar to the zodiac in that there are 12. They are as follows: the Tree of Life, the Demigod, the Child, the World, the Twins, the Thief, the Worm, the Tower, the Wanderer, the Gate, the Void, and finally, the Realm of Sleep.
And the artwork on those cards are just awesome.
There are a few variations on the nomenclature, but that's the most common bunch of names for the 12 cards. So, how do you use them? Once again, I'll let Melody explain.
Okay, so in order to find your path, you need to follow the instructions exactly to the letter. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Great. So, first find a quiet place where you feel comfortable. Clear your mind of all earthly concerns, close your eyes, and then shuffle the cards. Once you finish shuffling, set the cards face down in front of you. Then, you may open your eyes and with your left hand, choose your first card from anywhere in the deck and place it face up on top. This is the first stop on your journey. The next cards are read in order from top to bottom, and once each card is used, it's replaced at the bottom of the deck face up.
So how does the divination or guidance or whatever happen exactly?
Each card takes you to the next station.
And when you do this, it's interesting. If you do it as a game, especially the times I've done it out hiking, it leads to some interesting finds, interesting just random things, because it's just random. It's emotion, it's feelings, nothing quantifiable in science. So it's fun. But the way they use it within this universe is kind of cool, spooky, and kind of horrible. But it is what it is.
There are 12 stations, stops, or points on your journey. Once you've reached the final station, you'll have the final answer that you seek. Or you'll be where you're supposed to be, see what you're meant to see.
Okay, so...
And Riley?
Yes?
You have to be very careful with this type of power.
Okay.
You might end up in another world, or worse.
Worse?
Between worlds.
Oh,
Yep.
right.
Or as Stephen King created, the area between worlds dimension Todash, which I kind of really cool, which I find cool. He goes into quite detail in it in It, which is a really good novel, and the Dark Tower books. So that's my reference for her being trapped between two worlds, is the horrors that King in those particular novels specifically touches on Todash and the horrors and craziness. Then you take that description, you set it into this, it becomes really, really interesting thought experiment just to titillate the brain.
Yeah, so where were we?
I'm looking at a card.
Which one?
The Realm of Sleep. Hello?
That's an interesting card you've chosen to begin your quest.
How so?
I'm sorry. It would take a lot to bring you up to speed on the significance of each card. Let me just say that, similar to the Ace of Pentacles, the Realm of Sleep is a card directly related to a conversation between your inner self and the outer world.
Something that can be done with copious amounts of THC, by the way, just from past experiences.
Okay.
What do you see when you look at the card?
Well, there are numbers and symbols around the edges.
And I think this is where we're going to leave it for this time. Just kind of cliffhanger. Let you figure out, try to guess where we're going here. Yeah, according to my YouTube stuff that I've been receiving, I haven't been studious enough to beg you to subscribe and hit likes and all that good stuff, which I'm okay with, but evidently YouTube isn't. So subscribe if you want to, and if you don't want to subscribe, don't. I mean, I'm doing this as a hobby. I'm not trying to monetize anything. So yeah, just if you want to, do it. If you don't, don't. It's all there. It's all good. So till next time, everyone out in the world, be good humans. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?